Florida Atlantic and Wagner coming up in just about 40 minutes' time on the FAU Football Radio Network from Learfield IMG College. Two guys and a beer. It is my favorite part of the pregame every week because, well, get to hang out with Kevin Rolston and drink a beer. Pretty self-explanatory. Kevin Rolston, college football aficionado. Maybe more known, though, for his work on the KVJ show, 97.9 WRMF, 6 to 10 a.m. weekday mornings. And last week, it felt like, Kevin, there was a little bit of gloom and doom. Like, you and I were not in a good place mentally when we talked last week about FAU.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It's amazing what happens after a road win, and a pretty impressive one at that. And
a win's a win,
your
right?
guy, Chris Robinson, got the job done. 4 touchdown passes, threw for 80% in the second half. Like, he was just rolling.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, you had to see something. And, Thursday night I was checking out, you with the Lane Train, and he had said going 0-3 would have been disastrous. He knew that. Like, if they did not win that, this is just we're in a tailspin. And so that's a massive win. And to see how optimistic are you? It was Ball State. Where do you rank this win? But, I mean, just to say we got a win, and the way you played was fantastic.
Yeah, totally. And it's a Ball State team that put a huge scare into Indiana to start the year. And then they've got an offense. The MAC, they're projected to be a 6-7 win team in the MAC. And so it's a good road win. And so Florida Atlantic turning its attention today to Wagner. And as always here, two guys and a beer, we're drinking Funky Buddha Brewery beer. I have the Floridian, that's the Hefeweizen, and then you have the Hop Gun,
that's it,
Kevin, and that's going to be sold in the stadium tonight. Again, Funky Buddha Brewery, the official craft brewery of FAU Athletics. This Florida Atlantic team showed a little bit of what I think it can be in Conference USA. And you brought up a good point last week. Like, what happens when you take on a team like Marshall? Because, yes, it's been high-quality competition the first 2 weeks, but there really wasn't much that led you to believe that they could hang with a team like Marshall that's had a good start to the year. Yeah. And I think you finally saw some flashes of that. Rashad Smith, the way he's just sucking up footballs. I mean, the 3 fumble recoveries this year. He's the Conference USA Defensive Player of the Week. Talk about Robinson, but the defense has really started to take on that identity. I think there's an identity on defense more so than on offense that we've seen through the first 3 weeks, but that was really more the same from the defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be critical. I mean, there's a big question mark, and, watching what happened in the UCF game, to me, I walked away from that just saying, I don't know, is this a statement for UCF's offense? And they've got a true freshman quarterback that is in there doing this kind of stuff. And I'm like, so I did not feel good about FAU's defense after that. Yeah, you feel a lot better about it now. They're going to feel even better after this Wagner game.
Yeah.
And then, as you start getting into it, you'll get some true tests and I think be able to figure out where, this team is. But, hey, defense is a great way. If you can establish an identity there and feel like you can stop some people, you'll stay in a lot of games.
So FAU and Wagner, but I want to jump around college football a little bit here. Let's go to UCF. Yeah. And, that was not a good Saturday experience 2 weeks ago against UCF, but I would argue that Stanford had an even worse experience last week in Orlando. They had to fly across the country to take an absolute beating.
They did.
Something they're not used to. I'm done with the UCF disrespect. I can't believe they're not a top 10 team. I look at the top 10, and I think they're beating 10 through 7 at the very least, and that includes Wisconsin, who I absolutely love. But, man, UCF, I think, is going to this is going to be another undefeated regular season. I really think that.
I don't know who's going to take them out.
It's not, I mean,
what I'm seeing.
Right. I mean, we saw them take care of Pitt last year, and they can hang with, I think they can hang with any ACC team not named Clemson, to be honest.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that. I think that they are up there. Now, top 10, I think that's the question. You start saying, okay, put them up against Auburn right now. Where are they? The Stanford thing, they really did beat down Stanford, but I don't love Stanford this year, to be fair. It's not a true Stanford team
but
that
they're
they
like
beat.
40 points better than even the Stanford team you don't like. Like, that's fairly significant.
They were. The score in that game was not indicative of how they put it on Stanford. They put it on them big time. So, I agree with you. I think you got to seriously start talking about UCF as a legit team. And this is going to be the ultimate question, the shakeup in football, is what happens if they go undefeated? And here we are, and what is going to happen with the other Power Fives, and is it going to be a legit enough argument for UCF to get in somehow? How can that happen? How do we change college football? College football right now does not have the right setup for the national championship.
Right.
We're not doing it correctly. We don't have the conferences playing the same conference games. We don't have the same rules about you can or cannot play FCS teams. And you've got these outliers. UCF is going to destroy the current setup and how we're picking a national champion, because if they can't come to the table and they can't play, we've got a major problem.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that. 100% right. As we continue with Two Guys and a Beer, Ken Lavicka, Kevin Rolston, 97.9 WRMF 6 to 10 AM KVJ show. So Florida Atlantic and Wagner coming up, but let's go and get to Big Ten country. And you've got a Michigan-Wisconsin matchup that goes beyond ramifications for the Big Ten championship. This also could mean the future of Jim Harbaugh in Ann Arbor. And that's something I'm shocked to be discussing, because I thought that was a total home run, no-brainer when Michigan hired Jim Harbaugh. There's no way that wasn't going to work. And now we're in a spot where he can't beat Ohio State, but also his team has not looked good in what is a must-win year. This is the year for Michigan to win a Big Ten championship, get into the college football playoff. They lose today to the Badgers, and you start hearing legitimate calls for his job, I think.
I don't know how they win this game, to be honest.
I don't
with
either.
you.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
the way that secondary's just been blasted.
Wisconsin's defense is housing people. Their offense is housing people. They are clicking right now in a way that Michigan is fumbling all over the place, and literally fumbling all over the place. They've already given up more fumbles this
that's not
year than they did
rhetorical. That's like
last year.
literally.
They are fumbling all over the place.
Yeah.
And the thing that is just so baffling about the Jim Harbaugh era at Michigan right now, he was a quarterback in college and in the NFL, and he was known to be a developer of quarterbacks and Andrew Luck, and he made Andrew Luck, you thought. And that has been the big knock at Michigan, is what's going on with Shea Patterson, and why is Jim Harbaugh not now all of a sudden able to coach a quarterback? Who's been the great quarterback that he's had at Michigan in these 5 or whatever years?
Does not exist. No. I mean, it hasn't happened. And you bring up Harbaugh and working with quarterbacks, and your Andrew Luck point is totally accurate. And don't forget, too, this is a Jim Harbaugh who introduced the run-pass option to the NFL.
Yeah.
Colin Kaepernick was a sensation because Jim Harbaugh incorporated that offense. It took NFL defenses 2 years of that being put on film to finally catch up to what Harbaugh was doing. And for whatever reason, and it's not like the Big Ten is this spread, super speedy league, Purdue's trying to do something like that.
There are some teams that are changing a bit with it. I think Penn State is a team that attempting to a little bit, and they're better than they were. Urban Meyer, I think, did kind of drag the Big Ten a little bit into that era.
But I thought Michigan would be able to lead the way.
You think they'd have the athletes to be able to do it.
Yeah.
But, listen to Urban Meyer kind of break it down, on his Fox pregame show. He was talking about, hey, this is just not something that necessarily with the personnel they had that you're going to just throw this in there and it's going to click, athletes or not.
Yeah.
There might have been some bumps in the road. And the fact that Shea Patterson can't get this offense, that to me is stunning and baffling. And I got this bizarre theory about Jim Harbaugh. You remember how, like, back in the 80s, Michael Jackson seemed to change. He just looked different.
Yeah.
Jim Harbaugh, when he first did that Michigan press conference, looked different. This is a guy that used to be fiery. You remember when he got into that fight with Pete Carroll on the field?
Yes.
He looked different in the NFL, the 49ers, and he has this vacancy in his eyes.
He's like dead inside.
He's dead inside. He has dead man eyes.
Broken.
I don't know what happened to Jim Harbaugh. He's either a shell of who he was, it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers, or this isn't the real Jim Harbaugh that is coaching this Michigan team, because he's not the same guy.
And didn't he have something with Jim Schwartz, Lions head coach at the time, where he shook his hand too hard or like he was slapping his shoulder?
He was a fiery guy, and now, like, where is this Jim Harbaugh?
He reminds me of when a normal person becomes president of the United States, and after like 2 years, they just completely great. Like Obama started, and 8 years later, looked like he aged like 47 years.
Yeah, it's not the same guy.
No, it's not.
I don't know who this is that's coaching Michigan, but I don't think it's the real Jim Jim Harbaugh.
2 years ago, the dude was like a third base coach in a minor league game, and everybody's laughing. And now he just looks like his soul is broken.
I think it's his doppelganger or something. I don't think it's the real dude.
You're my go-to authority on anything Urban Meyer.
Okay.
I personally believe he will get back into coaching at some point.
Yeah.
And there's been some wild rumors, like he'd be going to Florida State, things I've read this week. That's not going to happen. But I do think he would listen to like a USC if they came calling or something along those lines. But Urban Meyer, he has been incredible on that Fox pregame show.
It's fantastic.
He would be a huge loss to college football if he left that role, because he's been so good there.
The way he is breaking down the game and talking about matchups, and you understand the game so well. Their ratings have been huge over on Fox, and what they're doing. The noon games are now a big deal. And, when you've got Michigan, Wisconsin, too, I'm sure the ratings are going to be through the roof on this. But, he's doing an unbelievable job. Urban Meyer, I don't think, my personal thought on him, and I know a lot of Florida fans are going to hate everything I have to say about this, but Urban Meyer, I don't think, can get out of his own way. I think he's an egomaniac. I think he has to feed that ego. I don't think this feeds it enough. He talks about he misses the fight. He does need to have that. He needs to be on that stage. And I think what Meyer's battle is, one, I think he does have the cyst issue with his head, but I don't think that's enough to keep him out.
Agreed.
His wife does not want him to coach. His family does not want him to coach. And he's going to have to fight against them. But if he's miserable every single day when he wakes up and he's bitching to his wife, Shelly.
It's nowhere to live.
Yes. She might just say, all right, well, then you need to go die on the sideline. And he might. He might die on the sideline.
And I think that's probably what he prefers.
Yeah, I think he's going to get to the point where he's like, I would rather die in the next 5 years on the sideline somewhere doing what I love doing than be in this. I don't think he's scratching the itch enough.
I'm totally
on the
with
Fox
you.
Pregame. Whatever he's doing at Ohio State for assistant athletic director is just a token, mock joke
he's
of a
just like
job.
a face.
Yeah,
and there's only a handful of jobs that Urban Meyer would take because
he's got the ego. He has to feed the ego. He's opened up a pint house, I think this week in Columbus.
Right.
All these things are not enough. He needs to be on that sideline. He needs to be in the national championship. It killed him when he was with ESPN and he sat on the sidelines and watched Alabama win it.
Yeah.
And he had to commentate on it because he wasn't in it.
Right.
He had to be in it. He can't do that. He already knows he can't sit at a national championship game and be the commentator. He has to be on the sideline. He might wind up divorced and dead, but I think he's going to be there. But
he had that competitive itch scratched finally, to use your words. And USC, that would be a job he would listen to. Saban leaves Alabama. That would be a job he would listen to.
Yeah.
Dabo leaves Clemson to go to Alabama. Clemson becomes open. That's a job Urban would listen to. Other than that, I'm not sure what else is worthy of Urban Meyer.
Maybe Notre Dame. But I think Notre Dame is just tough, and I think he realizes that it's tough to recruit there.
Yeah.
Because of the academic standards. And he knows, too, the pressure of the nostalgia of Notre Dame. USC is such a great job right now because you know what it can be. You know the recruiting base you have and how easy it would be. I mean, they're so way underperforming. It's been the story this week as the USC president's like, I don't want Urban Meyer. But if Urban Meyer really wanted to go to USC, you don't think there would be enough people be like, okay, we're going to get a new president in here for the university or we're going to make this happen.
What an absolute,
that's a story that means absolutely. That was a headline that means nothing at all.
Yeah. I mean, that would be enough for me if I was a booster to start pulling money and see if the president can be ousted if you're talking stupid like that.
The big dollars at USC, what would you rather have? A president who's doing whatever they're doing, or Urban Meyer and they're winning national championships again.
Throw Herb at me. Let's get to Notre Dame. Florida Atlantic and Wagner, two guys and a beer. Ken Lavicka, Kevin Rolston, who you hear 6 to 10 a.m. weekdays, 97.9 WRMF. So you've got Notre Dame between the hedges taking on Georgia in Athens. And so this is clearly the game of the weekend, in my opinion. A little background on me. Grew up in the Chicago area. I can't stand Notre Dame. I've always had a deep-seated hatred for Notre Dame. It's the arrogance. It's everything that I think a lot of times disingenuously gets thrown around the program is, Newt Rockne and win one for the Gipper and all that crap. But that said, this is a good Notre Dame football team. Georgia, though, I think is probably significantly better. I don't see Notre Dame as a college football playoff contender. I see Georgia Georgia as, again, a college football playoff contender. I'm not sure this is close tonight.
I wouldn't be surprised to see Notre Dame get blown out. I mean, I know that when they played before it was, it's a little bit of a game, but this seems to be the problem a lot of times for Notre Dame, and I don't know why, but when they get into man games, they get pushed around.
They do.
And they get embarrassed, and this is going to be a man game. Georgia on both lines are going to knock them around, and just time and time again, Notre Dame just doesn't play man ball. When they get up against the Blue Bloods, the Alabamas and the Georgias and the people that have got the studs, I don't know. And Ian Book's one of those guys too that, man, he looks great, and then all of a sudden he just all over the place. I just don't know that you're gonna see the consistency out of Ian Book either that you're gonna need in the quarterback play.
I do respect how Notre Dame every year is putting together one of the toughest schedules in the country. They do play Georgia. They do have their games that they play every single season, these traditional games, but they're just not equipped to go into Athens and win that game. I mean, you saw how Georgia pushed them around a couple of years ago in South Bend with what I thought was a better team than what Notre Dame has this year. And that was a thrashing up there at Notre Dame Stadium. It's going to be even worse tonight.
I think so, too. I would be stunned if Notre Dame comes out with a win here. And if they do, this really changes the entire discussion for the college football playoff.
Yeah.
In a big way.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a massive story, but I just don't see it happening.
I'll give you 3 teams, and again, Florida fans are going to be mad at me for not including them in this. So this is just all that we're going to end up doing is making Florida fans mad here
well,
tonight.
Good.
But
good.
These 3 SEC teams, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, who's better?
Alabama. Still the best. Solid quarterback. Receivers are ridiculous. I mean, did you see the run that they had last? They have a man running that ball.
Yeah, South Carolina, that did not go real well.
That was and now does every Alabama running back have to have the same hair coming out the back of the helmet? I can't tell them apart. It's like I feel like they've had the same running back there for 8 years.
I totally agree. Whether you're talking about Derrick Henry or Mark Ingram or any of those guys, like it's the hair out of the back and then the tree trunk legs. Like there's no way you're tackling them.
They all look exactly the same.
Yeah, it's insane. It's insane. So I think I'm with you. I think Alabama is the best team of the 3, but I think LSU right now has made the greater impact of the 3 teams. Going into Texas and doing what they did to the Longhorns is fairly significant.
LSU's your sexy pick.
Yeah.
Right now. And
got a good quarterback for the first time in, God knows how long.
Oh, yeah. I know a lot about Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an exciting dude. They've got everything that you would want right now. When they get up against Alabama, I really think that's going to be the game that I would be stunned if LSU beats Alabama. I think Alabama will come into that game prepared, and I think that's something where it's like, okay, that was cute what you've been doing, but sit down.
Yeah.
Take your place.
I think that's probably a pretty safe bet with any of that. Are there any other games you're looking at this weekend where you think that it's even in the same stratosphere, the same neighborhood as the Wisconsin, Michigan, and the Georgia, Notre Dame?
There's some of these outliers that I think you got to see what you have, and this will set the tone on the discussion on the SEC when we start to see an Auburn and a Texas A&M, because those are 2 programs right now. I don't know what either one of those teams are. I don't know if I should believe in either one of them or if it's just like, okay, you guys are doing what you usually do.
Like 10-9 wins and go and play in the Cotton Bowl.
Right. So there's a couple games like that where, if say Auburn or Texas A&M, they step up and they have an impressive, resounding win, then either one of those games really makes the SEC. And I think the SEC right now is trying to set a tone because they are trying to get the discussion of we're going to get 2 teams in the college football playoff. Those games are actually, oddly enough, kind of important, how they kind of lay out, because it will affect how we talk about the SEC and whether or not at the end of the year they get 2 teams in or just 1.
2 Guys and a Beer, presented by Funky Buddha Brewery. Ken Lavicka, Kevin Rolston, 97.9 WRMF. Hear him on the KVJ show, 6 to 10 a.m. weekdays. Cheers, my friend. Thank you again. Much appreciated. FAU and Wagner coming up at the top of the 6 o'clock hour here in Boca. It's Florida Atlantic football from Learfield IMG College.